Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the farce that was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson on Friday night, as well as obviously Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano on the undercard. We're also having a look at Latino night over in Riyadh with Chris Billam Smith and Zurdo Ramirez. Straight into the action. Well, I say straight into the action. Straight into that fight that we all watched on Friday or early Saturday morning. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Surprise, surprise. What happened, boys?
I like what you said at the start. A farce. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And, you know, I saw on social media Friday morning, the old Mike Tyson's back. That slap that he gave Jake Paul at the weigh-ins. It's going to be a long night for Jake Paul. And I sort of bought into it that perhaps by a miracle that we're going to see a prime Mike Tyson step into the ring. But as soon as that bell went, well, even before he even walked into the ring, he looked every bit of 58 and you just felt sorry for him. Yeah, that's how I felt.
I think it went exactly how we expected it. Like, I don't see how anyone expected any different. Loads of people were saying that they were expecting Mike Tyson to like roll back 30-40 years and knock him out, but
do you think people were being serious, or do you think it was like a
no? I genuinely
wanted to win.
I genuinely think people thought that like they were gonna get the 90s version of Mike Tyson, and I just found myself sat there. I stayed up to watch it. I kind of wish I didn't, but stayed up to watch it. And I've kind of found myself after that first round, especially, you could just see that he couldn't move, and I was willing the rounds to go by and just wanted him to get to the end of the fight with no issues, and gladly, like, a bit of credit to Jake Paul. I think he could have got him out of there if he wanted to, and chose not to. But he showed him at least the respect he deserved in terms of not throwing too many heavy shots at him. But I was just glad more than anything, because he's a legend, Mike Tyson. He always will be, no matter what. But I was just glad to see him out there, healthy. He's made a lot of money off the back of it, but let's call it a day now. I think with these well, went down as a pro fight, but it was anything but that, really, wasn't it? 14-ounce gloves, and
he surely calls it a day now. There's
Mike
after that performance. He surely. I don't want to see him in the ring again.
And you hope that financially he doesn't have to get back in the ring.
I don't think he financially needed to get in the ring.
I don't know, maybe, or maybe it just secured him and his family a bit.
Yeah.
But I just think, the whole thing, I think it proves what a legend Mike Tyson was. That there were still people thinking he was going to do it because he just had this aura about him. And even by all accounts in the stadium, there was people at the end of the fight like disappointed that he'd lost it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, did you not watch the fight? Like,
and did they not realise he's 58 and Jake Paul's 27?
So there's so many negatives to that fight. The fact it goes down as a pro bout, it wasn't. That was an exhibition fight, 8 2-minute rounds. There was 14-ounce gloves. Mike shouldn't have been fighting. It shouldn't be on his record. Jake shouldn't be ranked above Jamie TKV, Moses Jolly in the heavyweight rankings on BoxRec. And
in heavyweight as well.
In heavyweight,
in his first heavyweight fight against Mike Tyson, he's now ranked up again. Oh.
I mean, it's not official rankings, but it's still stupid.
Unbelievable.
I think what pissed me off more than anything was Logan Paul's reaction at the end.
Yeah.
Like, what he said to him was really disrespectful. And like, considering Logan Paul got beat up by KSI of all people, to like have an attitude like with Mike Tyson, who like in his prime would have ripped him apart. Like, never mind even his prime, rolling back towards the end of his career, and he wouldn't have been saying that to him then. So yeah, I thought that was quite disrespectful and not needed at all.
Because what did he say to him? Because as soon as the fight finished, to be honest, I read that the scorecards read out and I just turned it off because I thought, what a farce.
Yeah, he said they were like asking Mike if he'd get in the ring again, and I think he jokingly said that he'd fight Logan, which I hope they don't plan on doing. But he was like, oh, I'd fucking kill you if we get in the ring together. I was just like,
what, Logan there?
Like, you're not impressing anyone.
That's not impressive.
Like, a 58-year-old man is just like, I'm not massively fussed by Logan Paul. Like, what he does well, but
stick to WWE.
Yeah. Like, I just found it quite distasteful to speak to someone like a legend of the sport like that in that way.
I think the build up to it as well, Jake Paul acting in the way that he's fighting Mike Tyson, a prime Mike Tyson. He wasn't fighting a 58-year-old grandfather. He was fighting the man that everyone used to, you look at, well, my dad, he was looking forward to the fight. He's like, I get to watch Mike Tyson box one last time. Happy days. That's the way Jake Paul was going. I'm boxing Mike Tyson from the late 90s. No, you're not, mate. You're fighting a grandfather who's getting a payday, and you have to give him some sort of credit as well, Jake Paul, and in the way that he went about the fight. He could have easily stopped that fight in the first round, second round, but he chose not to. And I think that's where you have to take your hat off to him and say, actually, as much of a farce it was, fair play to you for not actually knocking him out.
Yeah, he was respectful after the fight, wasn't he?
But for Logan to say that after a fight where you're like, if this happened 20 years ago, Mike Tyson could have you both in the ring at the same time and you would stand no chance.
Yeah, it would have been. You could have uploaded it to Vine back in the day. It would have been a 7-second fight, quick over. But I think I've got no qualms with how Jake promoted the fight, because we see it with every show everywhere. They always try and convince you, the opponent, when you see an upcoming prospect, that this guy's 7-0. This is going to be a tough fight for him, and you realise that he's 7-0 against plumbers from South America. He's not the same thing. So I don't have any qualms with them saying trying to push the agenda that. But I mean, I know you kind of faltered a little bit, and speaking to my dad on Friday night at the awards dinner. Don't know what happened at the awards dinner.
Let's not talk about that, otherwise we'll be going to therapy.
Don't know about that one, but talking to him, even he was like, well, this is Mike Tyson, you forget what an animal he was. And it's like, I don't, but it's what an animal he's no longer is. What
That's what my dad was saying. I said that Jake Paul's going to beat him easily, and he said, have you ever seen Mike Tyson box before? And you're thinking, yes, but in a contract, there must have been a discussion behind the scenes with both men that said, this is an 82-minute professional fight, because it wasn't really, was it? Don't knock each other out. You can't knock each other out, because you watch back the fight. I watched it back twice for some reason. The punches they were both landing, I didn't feel like they were landing with 100% with their power. I thought they were just grazing them. That's why I think there's been a little discussion backstage where you're going to go out there, you're going to box for 16 minutes, you're going to put on a show for everyone, but you're both going to leave there fit and healthy, which was the most important thing. Because I think if Mike Tyson left that ring after being knocked out by Jake Paul, it could have stained the sport. Because how can you first and foremost, how can you sanction a 58-year-old man in a boxing ring in the first place? I don't know. Whether you can't sanction someone who's gone and fought in bare knuckle fighting because they weren't getting paid enough in boxing, have gone over to there and want to come back, and you're not allowing that, but you can allow a 58-year-old man to step in a boxing ring against a 27-year-old, and albeit not a very good boxer, but a 27-year-old in his prime. No.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as you said to say it was scripted or anything like this. I think Mike wasn't in a position to hurt Jake. No. The last shots he did land, he landed one good jab which kind of rocked his head back, and he landed a tidy little counter left hook, but it just grazed the chin. I think when you go back to watching him on the pads in fight week, he was almost missing pads. I think he was just, the balance, the accuracy was just off, and so I don't think he was in a place to hurt Jake at all. And then Jake wasn't going to hurt him. I think he made that decision. I think he probably made that decision in the ring when he realised the level of the opponent he was up against.
I think he realised that he's not fighting the prime Mike Tyson, he's fighting a grandfather. But Mike Tyson now, his head's telling him he can do it, but his body is gone.
Yeah, I mean, his mind was still there. He still caught him a few times where you can tell, like, he read the shot. It. There was times where he was trying to parry body shots and he was about a second too late to it, and you can just tell that the mind knows what it's doing, but the body can't put it on show, which is, it's a shame. But to jump over to some of the positives of it, 65 million households tuned in to watch that fight. And
I was going to say, like, the eyes it had on the spot, whether it was for the right reasons, there's getting a lot of people interested in boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with the fact that it was on Netflix was a huge, and I think we saw with everyone complaining about the live stream that Netflix weren't prepared for just how popular that was going to to be. They were struggling.
Mine kept dropping off.
A bit like Ticketmaster then. Yeah.
They were just really, really struggling with the volume. And
65.
We cannot, I think I saw 50 million households tuned in for the co-main for Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, which is undoubtedly a female record. I don't have the stats, but I don't even have to check.
There was a lot of records broken, I think, in that.
Well deserved as well for them too. By the way.
I mean, that was for me, that fight, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, was the perfect advertising for boxing. It had everything. It was two absolute warriors going at it. There was a cut. There was a points deduction. There was even a dodgy referee, dodgy judging decision. If you're not a boxing fan and you want to know what boxing is about,
the worst thing about that fight in the co-main event was the commentary team.
Oh
how
God,
biased it was. It was shocking.
It's like hearing you talk about Welsh fighters.
I know.
Honestly, if you listen to the commentary, you'd have thought, "Wow, Amanda Serrano is proper battered here." And I saw that was a thing, and I couldn't find my Netflix login in the morning to rewatch it, so I watched a dodgy Russian stream. So I had no idea what they were saying, and I had Katie Taylor winning it by a good couple rounds. So I think
it was close again, wasn't it? But
I thought when they read out the scorecards 95-94, I thought Amanda Serrano's nicked it because of that points deduction. But when you watch it back, because I watched it back first and foremost with that commentary, and I thought, what the hell are they talking about? And then you watch it back, and you can easily see that Katie Taylor won that fight by 2 rounds, maybe? And a push? 3, maybe?
The two of them are both incredible talents, and Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, I think, will go down in history as possibly the greatest female rivalry we're likely to see, and there's a chance they'll do the trilogy. I don't know whether they'll come to fruition.
I would like to see Katie Taylor, Chantal Cameron 3. They're one each. I think that's the smart fight for both fighters. Deserve that fight to say I am the better of the two. And then I think Amanda Serrano, Sky Nicholson as Amanda Serrano's final fight.
I think they do the trilogy. I think we deserve to see a trilogy because 20 minutes of just pure boxing action, and it was that for me was female fight of the year right there on Saturday night.
And it's in the conversation for fight of the year. But I think if Amanda Serrano wins the trilogy, let's say wins the third fight, so Katie Taylor's 2-1 up, what do you do then?
The only issue I find with the trilogy is obviously there was a lot of controversy around Katie Taylor and the headbutting. Like, if she was to go into a trilogy now with Amanda Serrano, the build up is going to be based on that. You got judges, referees that will be looking for that, and I don't know whether Katie Taylor will be thinking, right, I'm already going to go into that third fight on sort of a bit of a
one
back
round
foot.
down,
and like I'm going to have to be extra careful with whatever I do, because as soon as it happens the first time, and she is quite smart with the sort of dark arts, and like there's no hiding away from it. She was very like forceful with the head and used it to her advantage at certain points, but going into that third fight then she is going to be thinking, I think the referees, judges will be thinking as well, first time they see it, it's going to be picked up on straight away, and then like it's just those little things I think she might think of, like, and she's 2-0 up, like you said. Do you really need that third one?
Do you not think the Chantal Cameron fight's more fair? Because Chantal Cameron's thinking, I've beat you once, you've beat me once, let's have to decide.
The money though, I think on Friday night, that was the most the female boxers have got paid in the history of boxing. I think both of them pocketed 6 million each. That's brilliant. You've never seen that before in the women's sport. And like you said, that was a great advert for women's boxing, but not just women's boxing, boxing in general. Because when boxing's done right, that's what it looks like when boxing's done right. Two people in their prime going toe to toe for 10 rounds, and you're at the end of it, you want more.
It's just crazy the contrast there was between that like hour of the two of the greatest fighters you're gonna see, and then Jake Paul, Mike Tyson,
and between like Katie Taylor and Jake Paul, you can't get more different people. You have
like a
wonderfully humble, brilliant story in Katie Taylor, fighting, pretending to be a bloke, Kay Taylor, so she could fight in the amateurs in Ireland, getting amateur boxing into the Olympics, or women's boxing into the Olympics, all of this. And then you got Jake Paul, who has tastelessly gone about worming his way into boxing, and then I
will give him the credit though. He has helped Amanda Serrano a lot and give her a platform she well deserves.
And helped boxing as a whole. I have no doubt there's an immense amount of people that will have watched this event for the first time and are now boxing fans, but also will have watched previous Jake Paul fights and that's the first taste of boxing, and are now big boxing fans years later. So you can't take away from it. But just the contrast between the two of them and the fights.
It's like you're on a high after that fight, and you're like, the main event now, prime Mike Tyson's coming in the ring. I think I was brainwashed into thinking that, and then it just didn't go well. But it's good. As much as we talk about the farce of the main event, at least these two women got paid very well for their labour, and that cut that Serrano sustained was horrendous. I think, and fair play for her for carrying on, because in her corner, I don't know if you boys saw it or heard it, but her coach went to the referee, how can she carry on with this cut? It's
one of, I think it might be the worst cut I've ever seen.
Well, she got cut
in a fight that hasn't been called off. She got physically
from
dripping.
The headbutt, she was cut, and then she got, again, when Taylor landed a punch on her, it then spread even worse. So
yeah, and you could see it dripping, like not just down her face, but just
as well.
off.
Dangling.
It was a serious cut, and she fought through it. Wild warrior.
That come from the clash of heads as well.
Yeah, originally, it's you could tell as well, because Katie Taylor had a lot of blood in her hairline, which is clearly from where either, if nothing else, she's been putting her head into the cut, but realistically where it's happened.
I thought another funny thing as well with that fight at the end, Eddie Hearn's celebration. That just shows a proper away day. When you go, it's like a football fan travelling from Exeter all the way up to Carlisle, and they win in the 90th minute. They're celebrating, they're going mad. That's what Eddie Hearn was going like, and I don't know what the promoters called for Jake Paul, but he was not liking that at all.
My favourite thing was when they tried to stop Eddie going for the press conference, and I forget the guy's name now.
Taylor's manager,
her coach, the Irish guy, her coach, walked straight up to the media guy for MVP and went, "Oh, you get all three of us or none of us. Make your decision." And the guy's like, "Oh, wait." He's like, "Come on, big boy, make a decision." And then they just walk up.
Proper put him in his place,
yeah.
But I'm quite expecting on it. Like,
I just think, with obviously
beef between the
way
two
Eddie's he's
suing him, ain't
he? I think he's suing him. He's said the fight was rubbish between Jake and Mike beforehand. He's then obviously done that in the ring, and they've just gone, "Oh, we don't want you up there," but you can't. He's the promoter of the fighter. That's respect. And I think Frank Smith didn't get a press pass for it, or
it was literally
a backstage
Hearn,
pass. He only had to buy a ticket to go to the event.
Mad.
Which is I think the whole thing with MVP is a little bit tasteless in terms of how they go about things, and it's why we probably won't see Serrano versus Nicholson ever, because I just don't see them working with Eddie again unless Uncle Turkey chucks some money at the both of them and says, let's have it. Can you imagine, though, if we get Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron, and Nicholson Serrano in Saudi, 2 female fights on the same card? It would be unbelievable.
An all-female card would be pretty special.
That would be huge for boxing.
Yeah, on the kind of theme of
we've seen it before in lockdown. Sky did it with Katie Taylor. They had an entire women's fight card, and it did very well. So I don't see why they can't do it
with
again.
With the Latino night, you had that kind of theme around the event. There was a whole theme around, and I mean, I don't know what interest there is for Saudi Arabia necessarily to put on a all-female themed fight. I don't know what the interest is there. In terms of that, but it would be a great thing.
They do like their themes though, don't they? Saudi Arabia, with 5v5, it's a perfect fit for them.
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
Before we move on to Latino night, Katie Taylor, greatest female boxer of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue.
I think so.
Clarissa Shields.
I said this, and I was talking to Archie, one of my housemates, about it on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday.
Hello, Archie.
Shout out if you're listening. You're not, but shout out if you're listening.
He's already clicked off.
And he was like, is it him, her, or Clarissa Shields? And 5-weight world champion Clarissa Shields. But the weights that she's done it at are the more favourable weights to do it at.
Where there's not a lot of names.
Yeah, Katie Taylor is gold medalist. She got women's boxing in the Olympics. She's fought how many unbelievable world champions across her career.
It's what she's done beyond the sport as well, isn't it? Like you said, all the impact she's had. And it's not just within boxing, I think within women's sport in general. A lot of women would have looked up to her as just an athlete in general, and what she's achieved from where she was when she started in Ireland, and after she had to pretend to be a man to even get amateur fights. To that massive card on Saturday, the amount of money they got paid, the viewership figures, from where she started to going all the way with that
is movie. You can literally
Probably,
make a film about her.
But the world champion she's beat on the way, Tasha Jonas, McCaskill, Nina Menke, Pursoon, Amanda Serrano, Chantel Cameron. She's beaten all of the best names in women's boxing, and she's not just beat one or two of them. She's beat every single one of them on the way to two-weight undisputed champion.
And she's done a lot of rematches in there as well.
Yeah.
With Serrano, with Pearsoon. I don't know about McCaskill, but she's...
I think it was just one with McCaskill, I think.
Yeah, I think when you talk about greats of all time, I think Katie Taylor's definitely up there. Clarissa Shields can push her, but when you look at the names, Katie Taylor for me is number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can't argue it.
Without a doubt.
I think she's and no person is more deserving of it than her. She seems such. I've never met her. I'm not talking.
But from her personality at the weigh-in, at the presser, and all that, with Mike Tyson saying, "Oh, I can't believe I'm fighting. Not that I'm fighting on Netflix. I'm fighting on an undercard with my boxing hero." It just shows that she's a true boxing enthusiast, and yeah, credit to the sport she is. Yeah, absolutely. And from one credit to the sport to another credit to British boxing, Chris Billam Smith. What a
unfortunately warrior. Lost to Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh season Latino night. But it was a brave, strong, hard-willed performance, and Ramirez was the better fighter on the night, definitely, but he really showed some heart in that one with the cut, with some big shots he ate as well.
Yeah, it didn't go obviously the way you would have wanted, and I was gutted to see him. Like, he's had such a rise in over the last few years in terms of that first loss to Riakpo, rebuilding from getting his world title fight at the Vitality, winning that and becoming a world champion. And I think it was just a matter on the night. I thought Billam Smith would win. I thought he'd nick it with his pressure and like he'd be able to keep his sort of engine the longest, but I was very impressed with Ramirez, and he was just a bit quicker to the shots. I think the first round I thought Billam Smith was very, very good, and it was a good start from him, but
yeah, he did start
Ramirez just sort of broke through him eventually, and you could see like the further the fight was going on, it was a bit more of it was turning into desperation more than anything, I think. But yeah, that Ramirez Opetaia fight now really interests me.
Yeah, and a lot of those shots as well that Zurdo was hitting him with were massive shots.
Yeah, big shots.
But he's a big puncher. I didn't realise how big of a puncher he was until watching him on Saturday.
Coming up from
light heavyweight,
from super middleweight.
Well, he's gone it all, and a lot of people had question marks. Is he really good at cruiserweight? Is this his real weight? I think Saturday night he's answered all those questions, but Billam Smith showed a lot of heart, and I think that needs to be recognised. And when you're in a fight like that, I think, like Ben said, he started well, and as the fight went on, you knew that he was getting away from him. It was getting into knockout territory for him, but he didn't give up. He still kept on coming forward, which he always does. He doesn't know how to go on the back foot when the times aren't going well. He just keeps on going at you, and he can come back from this, I think, and that's the most important thing now, that the way he builds himself back up from this is completely different, I think, to that Riakpo loss, because he knows his level is at world level, because he can fight with Ramirez again, and it can be a completely different story. I think Ramirez just did his study better on Billam Smith at the end of it. But for Smith now, get back over to the UK, him and Jack Massey, Battle of Britain, perhaps in Bournemouth, O2 London, I don't care. That fight's big, but Zurdo now against Jai Opetaia potentially could be the biggest fight in 2025, because a lot of people said the cruiserweight division is like a stopover, a layover for people making that move straight up to heavyweight. Zurdo and Opetaia have now proven, well, and Billam Smith in a case, that you can earn a career and earn a very well paid career in the cruiserweight division, and that's a massive fight now. And I think Opetaia is watching that and thinking, "Ooh, I could be in trouble here after that performance by Zurdo."
Yeah, I think the big difference in the fight was that Chris Billam Smith landed a lot of good shots, but Zurdo landed shots to hurt. And
just look at the face at the
over
end
the course of the rounds, I think that just broke down Billam Smith and slowed him down a little bit with just how heavy those shots were. And you know, when a fighter hits like that, you really all you can do is bite down on your gum shield and hope you can weather the storm, but it does take a toll on you and makes it difficult to keep dominating rounds.
Yeah, he was throwing with him as well, and sometimes Billam Smith against previous opponents, he's on you so much so they sort of wilt under the pressure and can't throw back as often. But it was sort of every time Billam Smith was throwing his big shot, Ramirez was coming straight back, and when you've got it going back and forth like that, it is just a matter of time before someone gets the better of the other. And like you said, there's such big shots, they are eventually going to weigh you down, I think.
It was a really great fight, though.
It was
a really
exceptional
great
main event, yeah. From the fast that we had the night before.
And I'm sure he'll still be keeping an eye on that fight between Ramirez and Opetaya, because he'll definitely still want to have a go at one of them again to get that world title back. But
yeah, no doubt.
I think that fight now really, really interests me.
Oh, it's massive. And I think for Billam Smith as well, with this fight, he was expected to maybe go over to America to do it, and then obviously Saudi Arabia picked it up. But the entire card, top to bottom, I thought was a very good card. You had Al Mayoof in a very competitive 6-rounder, another draw. Bit concerning. I think you perhaps put the argument now that the biggest name really in Saudi Arabian boxing is maybe he's getting found out a little bit.
I think Muhammad Al Akil is probably the bigger name now. I know he's only made his debut, but based off his first performance, he looks like he's got the ability to kick on.
You look at the other fights on the card. Oscar Duarte was in an absolute barnstormer of a 10-rounder. I watched that this morning actually when I was eating my breakfast, and that was brilliant. I thought the minimum weight world title fight was brilliant. I thought Collazo just showed his class, and I just want to see more of those fights now at that weight. I think it's great to see that you look at the names like Jay Harris. I know this is Welsh biased to you, but at the lower weights the fights are so good, but they don't get the recognition. They don't get the promoters don't want it because there's not a lot of money in it, but they put on a great performances all the time. William Zepeda, that
shocked me seeing him get dropped. Obviously we were at the show on Saturday night, so we were watching
a lot of question marks I think after that fight. Obviously he still won it, but there's a lot of question marks now. Is Shakur Stevenson the right step, the next fight for him? I don't think so.
I do. I really do think so.
I'd still go for Shakur Stevenson.
You know, in Tevin Farmer, you're looking at a world champion, albeit at super featherweight, but a world champion in Pastor, a great fighter who's had some big fights, and he caught him with a very good shot. But otherwise, it was vintage Zepeda really, in terms of I don't know how he does it. How he just keeps coming forward and keeps throwing with that amount of. I just think, you know, if you are Shakur Stevenson and you can get out the way of that many shots a fight, then fair play. But he's going to catch him. He is going to catch him at some point.
It's not as if Shakur Stevenson's known as a big hitter either, is it? Like, he's very clever, very defensive, but when you've got someone that's like you said, constantly coming at you,
I think he struggles to keep him off him.
Sometimes you need that big shot for them to sort of take that step back and just think, right, I need to.
It was a split decision as well.
Yeah, I thought
it was a lot. I thought Zepeda won it clearly, but
same. But you know,
fair play for Farmer. He was there to do a job, and we all predicted a stoppage, which Zepeda delivered against Maxie Hughes earlier in the year. But
I think that's just a thing on it. You're only as good as your last fight, and like the Maxie Hughes fight and the one after that, like he looked so impressive, and I rolled through Maxie Hughes quite comfortably. So I think people are just expecting that from him now, but. Yeah, I still think that fight with Shakur Stevenson is a very interesting one.
You can make the argument now, though, with Shakur Stevenson. He's probably going to take that fight, and he's probably with the mentality now. That's a lot easier of a fight now than what I was thinking of after seeing that performance.
If it's not Shakur Stevenson next, though, if Joe Cordina is looking at it, and he's obviously looking for an opportunity, I'd be.
But he's not in a promotional deal now.
He wants them big fights.
Is he still in?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know. It's up in the air. But
Some interviews I've seen, he's not.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air. But I think the thing with Zepeda is he still hasn't got that world title around his waist.
That's the crazy thing about it. Because what is he, 30 and
32 and all now?
I think he's ranked number one in every number one challenger in every organisation. So
could you argue that he is the Martin Bakoli of his weight division, where everyone's trying to avoid him?
The boogeyman that no one wants to fight. I wouldn't fight him, would you?
No.
Like if I had to pick anyone,
only if I get paid like what Mike Tyson or Jake Paul got paid.
Yeah, but if I'm throwing £10 million, dollars, I don't know, whatever at you, are you picking to fight Zepeda or Shakur Stevenson?
Good question.
I would happily look like a mug for 12 rounds where I land not a single punch against Shakur Stevenson, then get a hit 150 times in the first round. Then I'm picking that Shakur Stevenson fight every day of the week.
You love Shakur Stevenson, you do, don't you?
Well, I don't dislike him. It's just if you're going up against him, you're leaving the Zepeda fight with some serious brain damage. I think I could at least strung a sentence together after Shakur Stevenson fight. I just
clip it up and tag him in it.
I love William Zepeda. I really like him.
He's a great fighter. Yeah, I didn't realise how special he was until I watched him properly for the first time against Maxi Hughes, and I thought, yeah, fair play. He's some serious talent, but Saturday night, I did leave that fight with a lot of questions that can he cause Shakur Stevenson problems? But you look at Shakur Stevenson's last performance, he didn't look great in that, did he? And we were all complaining about it was a bit boring, a bit of a snooze fest in it. But
which one was his last fight? Was it the De Los Santos? It wasn't the De Los Santos, was it?
Yeah, I think
God, that was boring. That was
just
really
his
quite.
That's what I
style of
mean with
fighting,
a
wasn't it?
snooze fest. But no, Zepeda just showed that even though when it's not going quite right for him, he can still get through it. And yeah, to have it split decision of 95-94, I couldn't see it. I thought it was a lot wider than that. 5 rounds wider, I think I might have had it.
I think it was a perfect test for him, really, because he's come through it. He didn't get particularly hurt. It was one really, really tidy counter. The way he pulled
shot
and then
put him down onto the canvas, mine was a hell of a shot.
Yeah, a little pull, little shoulder roll, and then hit him with the because he's a natural right-hander, I believe, but he fights out of southpaw. So
he was a southpaw against southpaw.
Yeah, so that lead hand is his strong hand, Tevin Farmer. So in theory, he's able to establish a really good jab, which he wasn't really able to do against Zepeda because you just haven't got the time to be flicking out a jab, because you flick out a jab, push out a jab to try and keep him back, and you've just eaten four hooks, an uppercut, and whatever else he decides to throw at you.
No, you look at it as well. This weekend, I think it was good to see that Turki Al-Sheikh worked with one promoter and it worked. I think you don't always have to get numerous promoters together to do one card of boxing. Saturday night, forget about the main event. The undercard was literally Golden Boy against Golden Boy. And it was good to see. And hopefully now in 2025, we could just see a Queensbury Riyadh season card instead of having a matchroom fighter up against... It could benefit the sport again. But it was called Latino Night. But the thing that I thought that it was going to start at like 11 o'clock our time. So over in the States and Mexico, it would then... when the main event comes around, it could be 8 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock in the evening. It was more like Latino afternoon. Maybe. Yeah,
maybe. But I liked all the... they had the...
brilliant. The
South American music between the rounds
Boulevard
and stuff.
City
Turned
looked
into...
incredible.
Yeah,
it looked like Mexico City.
It was great. No, it's fun.
The way they do these events, man, in Saudi Arabia are good, aren't they go all in on the theming of it.
I quite like the. It looked quite good in the venue as well, as opposed to the Kingdom Arena. Bit of a kind of like a smaller, not small hall, but like a small British arena kind of feel to it, rather than having it in a huge stadium that's half empty. I don't know. It looked like good fun.
And what I liked as well is the Newcastle United players were all there.
Yeah. This is so. I said to Ben when I saw it, and I was like, "What on earth are the Newcastle?" I was like, "What's Eddie Howe and Sean Longstaff doing?" And then I realised obviously the Saudi connection. I was like, "What an idiot!" But it did seem for a second really weird that they just
all walked in at the same time. I think it was like the Duarte fight. They walked in, and I was thinking,
I suppose Eddie Howe as well, being at Bournemouth, had the connection with Billam Smith.
He's a big fan of Billam Smith. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought a really great weekend of boxing. It's just a shame that the most watched fight from it was so shit. But the game's the game.
What do you reckon Netflix are going to do next?
Well,
do they involve Jake Paul?
In terms of sport, I thought you just
they're going to come into sport now. NFL.
Yeah, they dropped a teaser with Shaq, Dene, and Rob Gronkowski. Yeah. They're doing like a NFL against NBA competition.
I'd like
boxing.
All apparently they're gonna go up against each other in all different sports.
I know the WWE's going to it now, Netflix, so I think they're starting to invest more into it. But I don't want to see Mike Tyson as the main attraction to boxing.
No,
if that main attraction's Jake Paul, then let it be Jake Paul. But I think now they need to park the bus with bringing old fighters back.
Tell you what they really need to do is just get Jake Paul and KSI to finally fight each other.
That's on Netflix.
So hopefully we can get them two to fight each other, and then we can just call
this
whole thing a day.
That's the fight to make, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think now with Tommy Fury fighting Darren Till, which is a mental fight. I think Tommy Fury's turning into the British version of Jake Paul. Surely now, 2025, we do see Jake Paul against KSI.
Yeah, maybe. I think the problem that Netflix are going to have is they're not, with Riyadh season stuff, everything's over on DAZN. Queensberry have gone over to DAZN. Yeah. Really the only things they're going to be able to get is kind of one-off events, which is why it suits the influencer.
But think now when
route.
some fights go to purse bids, and you just see Netflix come up in those purse bids for the fight.
But realistically, Eddie, Frank, Turkey, they're all going to go to DAZN because they've got deals with them. Ben Shalom's got a deal with Sky Sports Boxing
at the moment.
So I think you're going to struggle to get a proper boxing event on Netflix that's worth having on Netflix.
I think they're going to go down the route, like Ben said, where they're going to have NFL against NBA players. They're not going to have real boxing events. Maybe the undercards, but the main events are going to be ones where you're going to tune in because it's a big name, like what Mike Tyson was against Jake Paul.
Yeah, Netflix isn't a sports subscription, is it? No. So they want to target a wider audience of people who just go on Netflix looking for something to watch.
Yeah, and something they can sell beforehand with the whole build-up. That's why it worked. I didn't
like the build-up to the Mike Tyson one where they were showing clips of him back in the 90s.
But that's the way they were just trying to sell
but the way it worked is they can show you, this fight is coming on Saturday night. Yeah. In the meantime, while you're waiting for that, watch our documentary we made that you have, and then it kind of feeds into it. And people I know that aren't really boxing fans were watching the documentary. We were talking to someone at the awards dinner on Friday, Alex's wife, and she said, I watched the documentary. And she wasn't a boxing fan, but it was on Netflix. It was interesting. So I think that's the way they'll get themselves into it. We'll have to wait and see. I think for now, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. We've pretty much covered everything. It's quite a passionate episode, I feel like. I feel like we've been very intense.
There's a lot of clips that that Sam can clip up, especially the one on Logan Paul. If I don't see that clipped up, then I will personally do it myself.
Fair enough.
I'm more than happy to.
We haven't got a preview show this week because there's not a huge amount of boxing going on. We're not going to just force an episode out for the sake of it. I hope we haven't ruined anyone's week with that news. But in the meantime, we have got a load of interviews up on the channel. Gavin Gwynn we spoke to today, that's going to be up. A load of interviews from the weekend with a bunch of Welsh fighters as well. And on the day that this episode will be coming out, Tuesday the 20th of November, Wednesday the 20th I think it will be. So day after this is our exactly 1 year since the Puncher's Chance.
Oh, wow.
So if that's not worth a subscribe,
what a brilliant year it's been.
I don't know what it is. So subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, add us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. That's the lot. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it as always, and we'll catch you all next week for another preview show.
Puncher's Chance. Puncher's Chance podcast.